When Upeki finally pushed open that forbidden door, she froze. Her husband, the man she called the love of her life, was lying on top of a dead, pregnant woman. 6 of them, all lined up in white cloth. And before she could scream, he turned and whispered, "You shouldn't have seen this."
Many years ago, in the bustling city of Makondo, there lived a young man named Duru Unamdi. Duru was every woman's dream. Tall, broad shoulders, skin that glowed like polished bronze, and a baritone voice that could melt the hardest heart. But what made him stand out the most wasn't his looks, it was his money. When people in Makondo talked about wealth, they mentioned Duru. He was filthy rich, richer than most politicians. He owned hotels, nightclubs, car dealerships, and even a private estate people whispered about. Duru's garage alone looked like a car exhibition, from Mercedes to Rolls-Royce, even cars that hadn't yet been released in Nigeria. Duru had them packed under his roof. His mansion stood on the edge of the city, a massive estate surrounded by a fence so high it almost touched the clouds. Rumor had it that even the air around his house smelled of money. Yet, for all his riches, Duru was a mystery. He didn't attend parties, didn't keep friends, and never allowed his staff to spend the night in his house. Every evening, by 6 o'clock sharp, all workers had to leave, no matter what. He lived alone with his secrets. There was a certain room inside Duru's mansion that no one, not even his most trusted worker, was allowed to enter. And behind that door, a darkness lived, one that could make even a grown man drop dead from fright. Still, Duru was popular among women. Young ladies from all corners of Makondo fought to get his attention. They sent him messages, visited his office, and even pretended to have car trouble just to meet him. But Duru was not interested in any of them. He preferred something different. Young, innocent girls from poor families in faraway villages. When it was time for him to marry, he didn't marry from Makondo. No. He traveled far to a quiet village in Alaoma, where he found a simple, beautiful girl named Imela. Imela was just 19, fresh out of secondary school. Her parents were struggling farmers who could barely afford to eat twice a day. When Duru showed up at their door, wearing expensive white attire and smiling with gold-capped teeth, they thought God himself had visited them. He didn't waste time. He told them he wanted to marry their daughter. He built a bungalow for her parents in the village. He bought her father a motorcycle, gave her mother cash, and promised to take care of the family for life. Money spoke, and just like that, Imela became his wife. Their wedding shook the entire village. People sang praises to her, calling her the girl who caught a golden fish. They envied her luck. After the ceremony, Duru brought his young bride to the city, to his great mansion. Imela was treated like a queen. She wore silk, ate whatever she wanted, and slept in a bed bigger than the whole sitting room in her father's house. For the first few months, life was like heaven on earth. Then she got pregnant. She was overjoyed. Duru too pretended to be happy. But just a few weeks later, the joy turned to tears. One night, Imela went to bed healthy and smiling, and by morning, she was gone, dead. Her parents cried their eyes out. Duru too cried, or at least pretended to. He insisted that he wanted to bury her behind his mansion, and the family agreed. After all, he was her husband. But unknown to everyone, Imela was not buried at all. What Duru buried was something far darker. A year after the death of his young wife, people expected Duru to remain single for a long time. But no, barely 12 months later, the city began to buzz again with news that the rich man of Makondo was taking another wife. This time, Duru traveled far to a small community called Utono, deep inside Benue State. There he met a beautiful young girl named Shiminenge. Only 19 years old, bright eyes, calm smile, and dreams as wide as the open sky. Shimi was an orphan living with her uncle, a poor tailor who struggled to feed his large family. Every day after school, she would help her uncle's wife fry puff-puff by the roadside just to make ends meet. She was humble, hardworking, and innocent, the exact kind of girl Duru was always searching for. The day he met her, she was selling puff-puff near a market junction. Duru had driven past in one of his black SUVs and stopped to buy some. From the way he stared at her, it was obvious that his mind was no longer on the snack. The next day, he returned to that same spot, not for puff-puff this time, but for shimi. He went straight to her uncle's house, introduced himself politely, and said he wanted to marry her. Before the family could even process what was happening, Duru had already started showering them with gifts, bags of rice, cartons of oil, bundles of cash. He built a small shop for her uncle's wife and paid all the children's school fees in 1 week. The uncle didn't think twice. To him, this was a miracle from heaven. Shimi cried that she was not ready for marriage. She wanted to further her education, to study law someday. But her uncle convinced her. He said, "Do you know how many girls will kill for this kind of man? God has remembered us, my daughter. Don't waste this blessing." And so, just like that, she agreed. Their wedding became the talk of the whole Ushongo community. People danced till midnight. The local DJ even sang, "Na she may catch big fish oh," whilst paying her with money. After the wedding, Duru took her new bride to Makondo. Her first week in his mansion felt like a dream. She was served breakfast in bed, had servants at her beck and call, and wore clothes she never imagined she could own. For once, she thought life had smiled on her. Duru treated her gently. He called her my queen, and he even enrolled her for JAM, promising to sponsor her university education. For months, everything seemed perfect, until one night, she woke up and found Duru missing from their bed. She thought he might be in his office, so she went to look for him. But when she got near the corridor that led to the locked room, that same room nobody ever entered, she heard voices, low whispers, chanting, and something that sounded like sobbing. She froze. Her heart began to race. The next morning, Duru smelled like nothing had happened. He kissed her forehead and gave her money to go shopping. Shimi wanted to ask what he was doing in that locked room at midnight, but something told her to keep quiet. A few months later, she got pregnant, and Duru was overjoyed, or so it seemed. He bought her gifts, fruits, and supplements. He made her laugh. He told her she would make a wonderful mother. Then one morning, everything changed. She didn't wake up. No sickness, no warning, nothing. Just like Imela before her. Her parents cried their eyes out. Duru too cried, or at least pretended to. He insisted that he wanted to bury her behind his house, and the family agreed. After all, she was her husband. But unknown to everyone, the same dark fate had swallowed yet another innocent soul, and Duru was just getting started. By the time Duru married his third wife, people had stopped asking questions. To them, it was normal. A rich man losing a young wife and moving on. After all, money covers many sins. So when news spread that Duru Nnamdi of Makondo had gone north to Zaria to take a new bride, no one blinked twice. Her name was Zainabu, a stunning young woman with caramel skin, wide eyes, and a shy smile that could melt anyone's heart. She was just 20 years old and had recently finished her tailoring apprenticeship. Zainabu lived with her widowed mother, who sold vegetables by the roadside. Life had not been easy for them, but they had each other, and that was enough. Then one sunny afternoon, a convoy of black jeeps pulled up in front of their small compound. The whole street came out to look. Who could be visiting the vegetable seller? It was Duru. He stepped out, dressed in white agbada that shimmered under the sun. He greeted Zainabu's mother respectfully, introduced himself, and went straight to the point. He said he wanted to marry her daughter. At first, the old woman laughed. She thought he was joking. But when she saw the envelope he dropped on her table, full of crisp notes, her laughter turned into tears of joy. She said, "Allah, you have remembered my family." Within a month, Duru had built her a new house and stocked her shop with goods. The wedding followed shortly after, colorful, grand, and filled with praise songs. Everyone called it the wedding of the year. Zainabu entered her husband's mansion in Makondo like a queen. For the first time in her life, she slept on a soft bed, ate meals cooked by professional chefs, and wore gold jewelry that sparkled like sunlight on water. She told her mother on the phone, "Mama, this man is too kind. He treats me like a princess." But like every fairy tale that turns dark, Zainabu's joy did not last. After 2 months, she noticed something strange. Duru never let anyone visit, not even her mother. Every time she asked, he would say, "My love, let's enjoy our privacy. Visitors bring bad energy." And just like the previous wives, he forbade the staff from sleeping in the house at night. Once it was 6 p.m., the compound became silent. Too silent. The only sound she heard came from the crickets outside and the steady ticking of the wall clock in the hallway. One night, she couldn't sleep. Duru had gone into his mysterious locked room again. Curiosity got the better of her. She tiptoed down the hallway and placed her ear on the door. What she heard made her skin crawl. A deep voice was chanting, then a woman's voice crying softly, then silence. Zainabu ran back to bed and pretended to be asleep when Duru returned hours later. His hands were cold when he touched her shoulder. She opened her eyes and forced a smile, pretending not to notice the red stains on his white robe. 3 weeks later, she got pregnant, and just like the others, she never made it to the second trimester. One morning, the maids found her lifeless on the bed. Duru cried again, louder than anyone else. He told people it was pregnancy complications and insisted on burying her behind the house, just like he'd done with the others. No one dared to question him. After all, he was Duru Nnamdi, the man who could buy silence with a single phone call. But what nobody knew was that the ground behind his mansion was slowly turning into a graveyard of secrets. After Zainabu's death, something in Duru changed. He became quieter, colder, and more withdrawn. But his hunger for new brides didn't stop. It was as if every time one woman died, he grew hungrier for another. 6 months later, word spread again. Duru was getting married. But this time, it wasn't just any woman. It was one of the twin daughters of Chief Ayodele, a powerful businessman from the neighboring town of Oluma. Their names were Lara and Lola, identical twins. Lara was the gentle one, calm like early morning rain. Lola was the wild one, full of laughter and mischief. They were inseparable. One could feel what the other felt. When Duru first saw them at a charity gala, everyone could tell he was mesmerized. But what people didn't know was that he wasn't looking at them with love. He was studying them, as if deciding which one would make the perfect sacrifice. Within weeks, he proposed to Lara. Her family was overjoyed. They didn't even question why a man with 3 dead wives was proposing again. They believed in his charm and his money. After all, Duru was powerful, and no one dared to say no to him. But Lola, the twin sister, didn't trust him. From the first day she met him, she said to Lara, "That man carries shadows around him. I can feel them. Please don't marry him." Lara laughed it off. "You worry too much, Lola. He's kind to me." Still, on the night before the wedding, Lola had a dream, a horrible one. She saw her sister standing in a dark room, surrounded by red candles and strange symbols. A man's voice whispered her name again and again until she woke up screaming. She begged Lara one last time not to go through with the wedding, but it was too late. The next morning, the drums had started beating, the cars had arrived, and Duru was already waiting. So, Lola followed her sister to the mansion in Makondo, determined to protect her, even if it meant sneaking around. For 2 weeks, everything seemed fine. Lara glowed with happiness, and Duru played the perfect husband. He even invited Lola to stay for a while, pretending to be generous. But deep down, he knew exactly what he was doing. One night, when Lola couldn't sleep, she went to the balcony and saw Duru walking across the garden, holding a lantern. He was heading towards the small burial ground behind the house. She followed him quietly, barefoot, her heart thudding like a drum. When he reached the center of the graves, he stopped. The moonlight shone on his face as he dropped the lantern and raised his hands to the sky. Then he began to speak in a language he had never heard before. The ground beneath him moved, and slowly, one by one, pale hands began rising from the earth. The hands of women. Lola gasped and covered her mouth. She could see them clearly now, the faces of Duru's late wives. Their eyes were hollow, their lips whispering her sister's name. She turned to run, but her leg hit a dry stick. Crack! Duru spun around. Their eyes met. For a moment, the world went silent, only the wind howling through the trees. Then he smiled, that same cold, dangerous smile. Ah, he said softly, so you've seen them. Before Lola could scream, he whispered a word, and she froze, body stiff, mouth open, eyes wide with terror. She could hear him chanting as everything around her began to fade. The next morning, Lara woke up alone. Her sister was gone. Duru told her Lola had returned to Oluma in the middle of the night because she missed her mother. She believed him until she found a strand of her red-beaded bracelet buried in the soil behind the mansion.
2 months after Lola's disappearance, the mansion at Makokondo grew colder than ever. Lara barely spoke anymore. Her once bright laughter had turned into silence. She spent most nights staring out the window, waiting for her twin to come home. But one strange evening, a knock echoed through the mansion's grand doors. Knock, knock, knock. It was late, too late for visitors. The maids had already left, and Duru was in his study as usual. When Lara went to open the door, she froze. A woman was standing there, drenched from the rain, dressed in a long brown wrapper and a black scarf that covered half her face. Her eyes were sharp, burning like firelight. "Please," she said in a calm, raspy voice, "I need shelter for the night." Lara hesitated. "Madam, this is private property." Before she could finish, Duru appeared behind her. "It's fine," he said quickly, forcing a smile. "Let her in." The woman entered without saying another word. As she walked past him, Duru's hand twitched slightly, like someone fighting the urge to strike. He didn't know why, but her presence unsettled him. There was something familiar about the way she moved. She introduced herself as Mama Ina, a traveler from the northern region. She said her bus had broken down and the driver left her stranded on the highway. Duru told the maids to prepare a room for her and excused himself early. But all through the night, he couldn't sleep. He kept hearing footsteps in the hallway, slow, deliberate, like someone pacing just outside his bedroom. When he finally opened the door, the corridor was empty, but the air felt heavy, like smoke after a fire. The next morning, the visitor was already seated at the dining table, sipping tea calmly. Lara was smiling for the first time in weeks, chatting with her. Duru walked in, and Mama Ina's eyes met his. "You don't look well, Chief. You've been walking with shadows." Duru's cup froze halfway to his lips. "Excuse me?" She smiled faintly. "You heard me." For the rest of the day, her words echoed in his mind. Walking with shadows, walking with shadows. That night, Duru decided to confront her. He went to her room, but she wasn't there. Instead, a faint humming sound drifted from the direction of the backyard, the same place he used to bury his wives. He followed the sound quietly. When he reached the graves, he saw Mama Ina standing there, barefoot, her black scarf now hanging loosely around her neck. The moonlight revealed her face clearly for the first time, and Duru's heart stopped. It wasn't an old woman at all. It was Lola. Her skin was pale,
Her eyes glowed faintly like dying embers, and her voice carried the weight of the grave. She said slowly, "You thought I was gone, didn't you? You buried me, but the ground rejected me." Dora stumbled back. "No, no, you're not real." But the wind began to howl, and one by one, the other graves cracked open. Zainabu, Adaeze, and even the first wife, Amaka, rising from the earth, their faces half covered in soil, their whispers merging into one voice. They called, "Duru Nandi, your time has come." He turned to run, but his feet sank into the ground, the very soil he used to cover his victims. Lara, hearing the commotion, rushed out with a lantern, only to find her husband clawing at the earth, screaming as the shadows swallowed him whole. When the wind died down, the backyard was silent again. The graves were gone, leveled as if nothing had ever been there. Only the lantern remained, flickering beside a single fresh grave. After that night, Duru Namdi was never seen again. No body, no trace, nothing. Some said he ran away into the forest, driven mad by guilt. Others whispered that the earth itself swallowed him whole. But Lara knew the truth. She saw it happen. She saw the ground open its mouth and take him. For 3 days, she didn't leave the mansion. She just sat on the floor of the bedroom, staring at the door, waiting for someone to knock or something to move. But no one came. Even the servants stopped showing up. They said the house felt different. The driver who came to pick up her clothes refused to step past the gate. "Madam," he said, trembling, "I heard voices coming from the walls. Please don't stay here alone." Lara didn't believe him at first. But that night as she walked down the hallway, she heard it too. Faint whispers behind the walls. Her name, Lara. She stopped, looked around. The lights flickered. "Lara!" The voice sounded like her sister's. She ran back to her room and locked the door, pressing her ear against the wood. The curtains moved, even though the windows were closed. The mirror by the dressing table began to fog up, and on it, 3 words slowly appeared, written by an invisible hand. "He's not gone." Lara's breath hitched. She backed away, clutching her phone, trying to call someone, anyone, but there was no signal. The whole mansion had gone dead silent again. Then she heard footsteps upstairs, slow, heavy, familiar. She froze. That sound, the dragging step, it was Duru's. The door handle began to turn on its own. Click, click, click. She screamed and ran towards the balcony, jumping into the garden below. She didn't even stop to pick her slippers. She ran barefoot through the night until she reached the main road, sobbing and trembling. By morning, she was found by a group of traders heading to the market. They said she was muttering one thing over and over again. "The house is alive! The house is alive!" When the police finally came to investigate, they found the mansion completely empty. But something strange happened when they entered the main hallway. Every officer saw they heard a woman crying softly from behind the walls. One of them said he saw a shadow moving through the mirrors, following them from room to room. They sealed off the house that same day. From then on, no one dared to buy it. Some nights, drivers passing through Makondo Road said they still see a faint light flickering in the compound. And if you listen closely, you can hear a woman whispering, "Run before he finds you." For 3 weeks, Amara kept dreaming of a white mansion she had never seen before, crying babies and a voice calling her name. But when she found that same abandoned house on Makondo Road, everything made sense. Hidden in her late mother's photo was a note that said, "Don't ever go there, Amara. You carry what he wants." That's when she realized her mother was one of the 6 murdered brides, and she is the 7th. For years, the mansion at Makondo stood empty. Tall weeds swallowed the once beautiful garden, dust covered the windows, and the gate hung loosely from its rusted hinges. Locals called it Ulondu Ani, the house that breathes. No one went near it, not even thieves. But then came Mr. and Mrs. Okore, a young couple from the city who had just returned from abroad. They'd heard the rumors, of course, that strange things happened there, but they didn't believe in superstition. To them, it was just an old mansion, a perfect place to start over. They bought it cheap, renovated the outside, repainted the walls, and moved in with their 8-year-old daughter, Chika. For the first few weeks, everything seemed fine. The air felt fresh, the rooms looked brighter, and the laughter of a child echoed through the halls again. It almost felt like the house had come back to life. Almost. Then, things began to shift. It started small, lights flickering at midnight, taps running on their own, doors that opened even after being locked. Mrs. Okore would wake up some nights and find all the mirrors in the house covered with a thin layer of fog. But the strangest of all was Chika. She started talking to someone her parents couldn't see. At first, they thought it was an imaginary friend, until they noticed her conversation sounded real. One morning, Mrs. Okore overheard her whispering near the hallway mirror. "Who are you talking to, baby?" She smiled innocently. "The lady in white." Her mother froze. "What lady?" She said her husband buried her in the garden. She laughed it off nervously, but that night she couldn't sleep. She kept replaying her daughter's words in her head. At exactly 2:14 a.m., she heard something, faint footsteps moving upstairs. She turned to wake her husband, but he was already sitting up, eyes wide open. "You heard it too," he whispered. They followed the sound slowly, their flashlights shaking in their hands. The noise led them to Chika's room. When they opened the door, the window curtains were blowing wildly even though the window was locked. And there she was, a woman standing in the corner of the room, dressed in a torn white wrapper, her face pale and streaked with dirt, her hair hanging over one shoulder. She turned slowly, her voice trembling like wind through dry leaves. "He never left." Mrs. Dokori screamed. The woman vanished instantly, leaving behind only a damp footprint on the tiled floor, shaped like the sole of a man's shoe. The next morning, they packed their things. They didn't bother closing the door behind them. By the time the movers arrived, they found the house empty again. The workers said they heard a woman laughing softly from the upstairs window, but when they looked up, no one was there. Since then, every family that tries to live in that mansion leaves within days. Some say the woman in white appears to warn them. Others claim the shadow of a man still walks the corridors, watching anyone who dares to stay past midnight. And if you ever drive past Macondo Road at night, you might see it too. The light flickering faintly in the master bedroom window, like someone waiting for their next guest. Years passed. The mansion on Macondo Road became more than a legend. It became a warning. Children were told never to go near it. Drivers avoided looking at it after dark. But one woman didn't believe the stories. Her name was Ngozi Eke, a documentary filmmaker known for chasing real-life mysteries. She'd heard the tale of the 6 brides of Duru Namdi and wanted to prove it was all superstition. So one evening she arrived with her camera crew, 2 men and 1 woman, determined to spend the night in the mansion. "Let's show them ghosts don't exist," she laughed as they set up their equipment. By 9 p.m., the house was alive again. Camera lights flashing, recorders humming, footsteps echoing through the halls. For a while, nothing happened. Then, Ngozi started noticing odd things in the footage playback. Reflections in mirrors that didn't match reality. Shadows moving even when no one was walking. And a faint whisper on one of the audio tracks that sounded like a woman crying. She brushed it off. It's just interference. But at exactly 12:03 a.m., one of the cameras upstairs turned off by itself. The cameraman, Kelechi, went to check. Minutes passed, then 10. He didn't come back. Ngozi followed with her flashlight. "Kelechi," she called. No answer. She climbed the stairs slowly, the wood creaking under her feet. The beam of her flashlight caught something on the floor, Keleti's cap, soaked in blood. She turned around to run, but there, at the end of the hallway, stood a woman in white, the same ghost every witness had described. Her voice was a whisper, soft and broken. "He wants another bride." Ngozi backed away, heart pounding. Who are you?" The woman stepped forward, and for a second, her face flickered, shifting between Zainabu, Adeze, and Lara. "We were all his brides. He fed on our fear. Now he wants you." The light exploded. Ngozi screamed as the house came alive. Doors slamming, mirrors cracking, the air thick with whispers. Her camera fell, capturing one last image, her terrified face reflected in a mirror, and behind her, the tall shadow of a man wearing a white robe. When police arrived the next morning, all they found was the camera. The footage ended abruptly at 12:07 a.m. Ngozi Eke and her team were never found. The mansion was sealed for the final time. Authorities called it unsafe. Locals called it cursed. And now, when the moon rises over Makondo Road, people say you can still see her. Ngozi, wandering the balcony in her red jacket, camera in hand, filming shadows that no one else can see. Some even claim she's become the last bride.
Many years before Duru Nnamdi became a name whispered in fear, he was just another young hustler trying to survive in the city of Oniba. Back then, life was rough. Duru sold spare parts in the market. He slept in his shop and ate only once a day. He wanted more. He wanted power, wealth, respect. One night, frustrated by poverty, he met an old man who changed his destiny forever. The man was called Papa Ewe, a mysterious wanderer said to know the secrets of unseen forces. "Boy," the old man said, his eyes glowing faintly, "you want wealth? You want to live like a king? Then be ready to give what kings cannot give." Duru laughed. "I'll give anything. I'm tired of being poor." The old man smiled slowly. "Then come to the river of Ewu at midnight tomorrow. Come alone. Bring a cock and your blood." And that was how it started. At midnight, Duru went to the river bank with a cock and a bowl. The air was heavy and the moon was red, like it had witnessed too much. The old man appeared from the mist, muttering incantations. "Cut your finger," he commanded. Duru did. His blood dripped into the water. The river bubbled, the cock screamed and fell silent. Then a voice echoed from the darkness. "Your wealth has been accepted, but your years are 5. To extend your life, you must feed us what brings life, a mother and her child within." Duru froze. What do you mean?" The old man smiled. "Pregnant women, boy. That is the price. Every year, 1, until your time is full." That night, Duru walked away rich. His shop grew, his name spread, and money flowed like a river. He bought lands, cars, and built the biggest mansion on Makondo Road. But from the day he laid the first brick, strange things began to happen. Construction workers complained of hearing babies crying in the empty rooms. Some even swore they saw hands rising from the foundation concrete before it hardened. When the mansion was completed, the old man appeared one last time. "You have 5 years," he said. "Use them wisely." And Duru did. Each year, 1 wife, each one young, pregnant, and gone before the year ended. Until Ngozi came. She was never meant to enter the story, never meant to survive, but she did.
And when she opened that forbidden room, Drew's pack was broken. That same night, as he sat in police custody, Duru began to tremble. His stomach swelled like something alive was growing inside him. His eyes rolled back and a thick red fluid poured from his nose and mouth. By morning, he was gone. But the mansion remained, and those who pass by it at night still say they hear a man's voice crying from the locked room. My time is not yet over. 15 years had passed since the death of Duru Nnamdi. The mansion on Makondo Road had turned into a ghost landmark. Its tall gates chain shut, its walls overgrown with weeds. No one dared to buy it, not even land speculators. People said that anyone who tried to step beyond that gate would hear soft lullabies drifting from inside. Lullabies sung by unseen women. But time, as always, erases fear. A new investor came to town, Chief Onwafo Obieke, a wealthy businessman from Enugu. He was bold, arrogant, and proud of it. He wanted to turn the abandoned mansion into a luxury hotel. "Curses don't scare me," he said during a press conference. "This is 2038. Ghosts are stories for children. I deal with reality and profit." The crowd cheered, but the old people of Oniba shook their heads. They had seen this movie before. A week later, Chief arrived with engineers, surveyors, and security men. They broke the rusty chains on the mansion gate and stepped in for the first time in 15 years. The air inside was cold, unnaturally cold. The once beautiful chandelier hung crooked, covered in dust. Portraits of Duru still hung on the walls, their eyes following whoever passed. "Clean everything," Chief ordered. "I want this place shining by the weekend." And his workers obeyed. But that night, when they returned to their hotel, one of the engineers, a man named Ebuka, didn't come back. They thought he was running late until his phone was found inside the mansion, still recording. The video showed him walking through a hallway, muttering to himself when he stopped suddenly. There was a woman in white, standing at the end of the corridor, smiling. The video ended with a loud scream. The next morning, police searched the entire mansion. No body, no sign of struggle, just Ebuka's helmet on the floor. Chief Onwafo refused to stop. "Fear will not make me poor," he boasted. "Finish the renovation." But that same night, 3 more workers disappeared. The ones who survived told a story that sounded like madness. They saw pregnant women walking through the walls, their faces expressionless, their bellies glowing faintly. One whispered, "We are still waiting for our rest." By the 3rd day, everyone had quit. Chief was alone. Still, he refused to give up. He walked into the mansion himself, determined to prove nothing supernatural existed. He reached the locked door, the one the police had sealed years ago. He forced it open. Inside was a long wooden table, covered in dusty white cloths. Underneath each cloth lay the preserved bodies of 6 women, untouched by time. And right in the middle, a small cradle, rocking itself. Chief's scream echoed through the night. No one ever saw him again. By morning, the mansion gate was closed once more. And from that day, the locals started hearing something new. Not just crying, but laughter. Deep,
heavy male laughter. Duru was back, and the mansion of Makondo Road had awakened again. Her name was Amara Odu, a 26-year-old fashion designer living in Port Harcourt. She had never been to Oniba before. She had never heard of Duru Nnamdi or his cursed mansion. Yet, every night for 3 weeks, she dreamt of it. In her dreams, she would see a grand white house standing alone on a long, empty road. The sky above it was always red, and the sound of crying babies echoed from inside. At first, she thought it was just stress, but then the dreams got stronger. In the 4th week, she started hearing a voice, soft, feminine, almost pleading. "Come and help us, Amara. We are waiting for you." She would wake up drenched in sweat, her heart pounding, her sewing machine light flickering beside her bed. One morning, Amara sat on her work table shaking. "What kind of nonsense dream is this?" she muttered. Her friend Lillian, who was also her apprentice, laughed. "Maybe someone wants to show you where treasure is buried." Amara forced a smile. But that night, she dreamt again, this time clearer than ever. She walked through the mansion's gate, saw a locked door, and when she tried to open it, a man's voice whispered in her ear, "You have her eyes." She screamed and woke up. The next day, she decided to find out if the place truly existed. She typed "abandoned mansion in Oniba" on her phone. The first picture that appeared made her blood run cold. It was the same house, the white mansion from her dreams. Amara froze. How? How is that possible? She scrolled through the article. It was about the Makondo Road mansion, known for the mysterious deaths of 6 brides and the recent disappearance of a businessman named Chief Nwafo. Her fingers trembled. Was she somehow connected to the story? For days, she tried to ignore it, but the voice in her dreams grew louder. "Come to us, Amara. You are the 7th. That night, she dreamt of herself standing in front of a mirror. Behind her reflection stood 6 pregnant women in white wrappers, staring blankly. One of them reached forward and touched her shoulder. "You carry his blood." Amara woke up screaming. The next morning, without telling anyone, she packed a small bag and boarded a bus to Oniba. She didn't even know why. Something stronger than reason was pulling her there. When the bus stopped at Makondo Junction, Amara stepped down. The air felt heavy, as if someone invisible was watching her. She asked a local boy, "Please, where's the old Nnamdi mansion?" The boy's eyes widened. "Auntie, don't go there. Oh. People who go there don't come back." But Amara just smiled weakly. "I won't enter. I only want to see it." By sunset, she was standing before the same iron gate she had seen in her dreams. Her hands shook. The weeds swayed as if whispering her name. She reached out, and the gate creaked open by itself. Inside, a cold wind rushed out and brushed her face. "Welcome home, Amara," a whisper said. Amara didn't remember walking through the gates. She just remembered the heavy sound of it closing behind her. The mansion stood silent, yet alive. Its windows seemed to breathe. Its walls seemed to listen. She walked slowly, clutching her bag, her eyes darting left and right. The house smelled of dust, perfume, and something old, like decayed flowers. "Hello?" she whispered. No answer. Then, faintly, she heard soft humming, a lullaby. It was coming from upstairs. Amara's body trembled, but her feet moved on their own. She climbed the cracked marble stairs until she reached a long corridor lined with portraits. Each portrait showed a woman, beautiful, sad, dressed in white. And below each frame was a name,
Ngozi, Ifunanya, Chika, Oma, Bisi, Nneka. 6 women, 6 brides. As she looked at them, something strange happened. Her heart began to race. She recognized one of the faces, the last portrait. It looked exactly like her late mother. She stumbled back, whispering, "No, that can't be. My mother was never here." But the resemblance was undeniable. Same dimples, same eyes, same mole under the left brow. She touched the frame, and the moment her fingers brushed the nameplate, Nneka Nnamdi, the portrait cracked open like glass. Inside was a hidden compartment containing an old envelope. Inside was a letter written in shaky handwriting. "If you find this, it means the curse has reached you. I was his 6th wife. He promised us heaven, but built us a tomb. If I don't make it out, tell my daughter Amara never return here. She carries what he wants." Amara dropped the letter, her knees weak. Her mother had been here. Her mother, Nneka, was one of Duru's 6 wives. She whispered through tears, "Mama, you lied to me." Just then, thunder cracked outside and the lights flickered on by themselves. In the reflection of the cracked portrait glass, Amara saw a man standing behind her. Tall, broad shoulders, face half hidden in shadow. "You found the truth," he said softly. "My bride's child." Amara turned slowly, her lips trembling. "Who are you?" The man smiled faintly. "Duru, and you are what I could never have, blood that survived." Her breath caught. You're dead." He stepped closer. His eyes glowed faintly red. "Death is only a door, and now that you've opened it, we can finally be a family again." Amara backed away, clutching the wall. "Stay away from me." But Duru only smiled wider. Behind him, the 6 brides appeared, floating silently, their bellies round, their faces pale like chalk. "She's the 7th. She completes the circle." Amara screamed, bolted down the stairs, and ran toward the front gate, but it had vanished. In its place stood a solid wall. She turned, gasping, and saw the portraits burning on their own, one after the other. And above the fire, Duru's voice echoed, "No one leaves until the circle is full." Amara ran through the dark halls, screaming for help that would never come. The mansion was alive now, doors slamming, chandeliers swaying, shadows twisting across the walls like living things. Every mirror she passed reflected not her face, but her mother's, whispering, "Don't let him take you." Upstairs, thunder roared, and Duru's laughter filled the house, deep, echoing and cruel. "You can't run from blood, Amara. You are born for this." His voice boomed through every wall, every crack, every echoing corridor. Amara stumbled into a large hall, the same one from her dreams. In the center stood a table covered in white cloth. 6 chairs surrounded it, and one empty seat waiting at the head. The 6 brides appeared again, floating around her like silent ghosts. Their faces were calm now, too calm. Their bellies glowed faintly, pulsing like candlelight. Amara whispered, trembling, "What do you want from me?" Their voices blended together, hollow and haunting. "Freedom." Before she could move, the white cloth on the table lifted by itself, revealing 6 bowls filled with black water. And then Duru appeared at the head of the table, dressed in white, his eyes burning red. "You complete what they could not, the 7th vessel, the one with living blood." He raised his hand and the air grew heavy. The floor cracked and dark smoke coiled around Amara's legs like snakes. Amara fell to her knees, gasping. Her mother's voice suddenly echoed inside her. "Use the name, Amara. Call the name he fears." "The name?" she whispered. "What name?" Then, in her mind, she saw a flash, her mother writing that letter, crying, whispering a word again and again. It was the name of the god Duru betrayed long ago, Ekwensu, the bringer of punishment. Amara screamed the name aloud, Ekwensu, come and take what belongs to you. The mansion shook violently. Lightning flashed through every window. The 6 brides wailed as blinding white light burst from their bellies, one by one, freeing them. Duru staggered back, shouting in rage, "No, you don't know what you have done." Amara stood, her eyes glowing now, her mother's spirit merging with hers. "You took their lives, now they'll take your peace." The air split open, and a dark, shadowy figure stepped out from the flames, tall, horned, ancient, Ekwensu. With one roar, the spirit of Duru Nnamdi was dragged into the darkness, his screams fading into silence. When the light cleared, the mansion was gone. Only Amara stood in an open field, her mother's spirit smiling faintly beside her. "It's over, my child. The curse is broken." Tears ran down Amara's face. "Will I ever see you again?" Her mother's ghost shook her head. "Not in this life, but you have freed us all." The wind blew gently, and the spirits of the 6 brides rose into the air like fireflies, disappearing into the dawn. Amara fell to her knees, sobbing, but this time out of relief. When the villagers found her the next morning, she was unconscious near the ruins of the old mansion, holding a burnt photograph of her mother. They said the mansion had finally vanished, swallowed by the earth. And from that day on, no one ever heard the cries from Makundo Road again. But sometimes, on stormy nights, people say they can still see a woman in white walking near the old road, whispering softly, "Tell my story so it never happens again."